Hey, what's good? My name's Kinell and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of classics and new releases from horror and exploitation cinema. I hope you've all been staying well. I've been staying safe myself, staying away from the gates of hell and checking into the Bates Motel. Yeah, that's right. This week I'm looking at the various sequels, spin-offs and reboots to Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 classic, Psycho. Reason for this is I've been catching up with the TV series, which I missed first time round. I'm enjoying it though. I'm going to save that series for a separate video, because it's like 5 seasons long and there's a lot to cover. So today I'm only looking at the feature-length entries in the canon. I'm not going to talk about Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho itself, because you know about that. It's the 60s classic, but the spin-offs didn't really start till the 1980s, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of variation in the canon. So first off, let's have a look at the 1998 remake by Gus Van Sant.
When a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son, I couldn't allow them to believe that I would commit murder.
A boy's best friend is his mother. She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
'It's shite. Next up, 1987's Bates Motel.
After the death of Norman, the motel has been taken over by a new owner who doesn't know what he's let himself in for. Strange things are bound to happen. Bates Motel is a chilling supernatural thriller.
It's 27 years later.
I, Norman Bates, being of sound mind.
Knowing the history of that place, I'd be out of there at the first full moon.
Bates Motel has come back to life,
Isn't that crazy?
and history will repeat itself.
Like most people, they don't go around seeing stuff that's not there.
One more time.
What are you doing here?
One last time. Bates Motel.
1987's Bates Motel, starring Bud Cort from Harold and Ward. It's less about Norman shagging a corpse and more about apparitions trapped in the walls, which got me questioning, who is this actually for? Also starring Tank Girl's Laurie Petty. It's more comedic in tone and barely mentions Norman Bates at all. He's just brushed away in the opening monologue. And it's about a guy who inherits the Bates Motel, and there's all sorts of weird shit and ghostly goings on. Personally, I like this for the big rant of the news reporter at the start. He goes off. After that, it all goes Scooby-Doo quite quickly, and because it's a pilot for a TV series that never got picked up, it sets up a lot of shit that it doesn't really go anywhere with. It's a bit of a curiosity, but if you want to find it, there's VHS rips of it and shit knocking about, so go and check them. Next up, 1986's Psycho 3.
Norman Bates has finally got his act together.
I'm going now. I won't be out late. Mother?
After being locked up for 22 years, Norman finally has a reason to celebrate.
What shall we toast to this time?
Happiness.
After 22 years of being a bad boy, Norman Bates has finally become the kind of son that makes a mother proud. He runs a respectable business. He's met a nice girl that he likes. If only he could forget about
The past is never really past. It stays with me all the time. And no matter how hard I try, I can't really escape. She's a nice girl.
She's a whore.
But we didn't do anything.
You let her come between us.
God, will you leave me alone, Mother? Will you leave me alone?
It's perfectly natural for a son to love his mother.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
It's homecoming week at the Bates Motel. And homecomings often bring out the worst in a family.
Norman, can't you do anything right?
Anthony Perkins, Psycho 3. The terror is now complete.
Psycho 3 from 1986. At this point in the series, they had just gone full slasher. There's no real mystery element to this one, which kind of sets it apart because all the others have a few twists and turns going on over there. But I love a slasher, and I love this. It does the work pretty well. Although I do have one slight issue with the ending. At the ending, it reveals that the woman he thought was his mother's corpse isn't his mother's corpse. And there's this big cathartic moment where he finally frees himself by stabbing the shit out of this woman's corpse that isn't his mother. So since it isn't his mother, that means that the big finale of this is just literally corpse desecration. Damn. Next up, some Psycho 4, The Beginning.
In 1960, Alfred Hitchcock created a film that is perhaps the most terrifying thriller of all time. Psycho. Now, come answers to the questions audiences have been asking for over 30 years. Psycho 4, The Beginning.
This is Fran Ambrose on KTK, Talk of the Town.
I called because the focus of your show tonight is what makes boys kill their mothers.
Are you saying you killed your mother?
I killed some other women, too.
You want to tell us about your mother, how she drove you to become what you became?
She'd be sweet one moment, and then she'd suddenly turn mean. Don't you have any respect for the dead?
How did it all start?
What are you doing here?
We're gonna wake up your mother.
Kill her.
I can't, no!
Then I'll do it for you.
What makes Norman Bates kill?
Look at yourself, boy. Ha! Girl. Yes, girl. No. Mama's little girl.
Not a girl.
How'd you kill your mother?
Slowly.
Will this be the end of Norman Bates?
Oh, I've killed before. And now I'm gonna have to do it again.
Or is it only the beginning? Psycho 4, The Beginning. Anthony Perkins stars, with Olivia Hussey, C.C.H. Pounder, and Henry Thomas as young Norman Bates. Psycho 4, The Beginning.
Psycho 4, The Beginning, in my opinion, director Mick Garris's finest work. This is brilliant. I absolutely love this film, revolving around Anthony Perkins as the current day Norman Bates, phoning into a radio show and saying he's going to kill again for different reasons. It's got a non-linear storyline to it, with various flashbacks to Norman's origins, the first time he killed, and what his mum did to leave him in the state he was. takes quite an interesting flip here, because at this point in the series we've only ever seen Norma as a corpse. So that's kind of like how we associate her as this old crone woman. But this shows Norma as an actual attractive woman, which sort of changes the whole dynamic of the whole thing in a way that makes a lot of sense, if I'm being honest. You know, she's a very toxic presence in Norman's life, ends up fucking him up. And like, whilst the flashbacks are from different eras in different orders, it does sort of pull the whole story together. And it has, the finale to it, I'd say, rounds things off very nicely for the series. The Anthony Perkins Norman Bates arc perfectly finished here. But my absolute favourite of the sequels, reboots and remakes of Psycho is Psycho 2.
I have a petition here signed by 743 people against Norman Bates' release.
Madam, please sit down. This matter is being represented by the district attorney.
Norman was not convicted of murder. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Don't you realize they're going to release a homicidal maniac?
I'm asking you to sit down, Mrs. Loomis.
It's all too obvious. Our courts protect the criminals, not their victims.
Norman Bates is judged, restored to sanity, and is ordered released forthwith.
It's 22 years later, and Norman Bates is coming home.
I own a motel not too far from here. And you'd be welcome to spend the night in one of the empty rooms if you'd like. Good night, Mary.
And he's back in business.
Who is this? My mother is dead. I'm telling you, there was a note on that wheel from my dead mother.
Norman, it couldn't be your mother. It had to be someone else.
But trust her. She would never do anything to hurt me. No. She'll kill you. I know she will.
Look behind you!
No, I won't do that. You can't make me kill her.
22 years later, Norman Bates is home. Psycho 2.
It's starting again.
Psycho 2, what a fucking banger, mate. I talked about this in a previous video on Netflix, like, so if you go back and check my 5 horror films to watch on Netflix if you want to talk about it then. But in all the feature-length entries into the Psycho canon, I've got to say Psycho 2 is my all-time favourite. It's fucking brilliant, and I even prefer it to the original. It's got that whole mystery element with you not knowing who's responsible for things, how much is in Norman's head, even though he's completely going insane. Are there other factors at play? It's just an amazingly well-made film. 20 years after the original, an incredible reboot to the franchise. Bringing in that mystery element, but bringing in a bit of a slasher element too. Brilliant. And as I said earlier, you can check that one on Netflix.
You're sure you won't have a sandwich?
Pardon?
So there you have it. That's my breakdown of all the ranking of all the various sequels, remakes and spin-offs to the Psycho canon. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. Leave a comment down below, let me know if there's things you haven't heard of, if there's things you haven't checked. If you have checked them, if you agree, if you disagree, all of that shit, just whack it in the comments down there. And if you haven't done so already, do us a favour and subscribe, because it really does help me out. I'm at 90 odd followers, man, and I need that 100, it's doing me head in. Anyway, that's been Sinister Cinema, safe.